Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Always Smiling Faces podcast. And I'm back with three of the best lads that you'll ever meet. So, lads, it's not the best of returns for me after that absolutely horrendous display at the weekend. But I don't really want to speak about football right now. I just want a quick chat with you just to see how you are all doing. Is everybody good?
Fabulous.
Is that all I'm getting, mate? Fabulous.
Not shite, to be honest with
you. Like 4 weeks away and all I'm getting is fabulous.
No, it's great to see you though, mate. Good to see you. Good to have you back. Mark's done a good job though, filling in. He's done very well because me and Bessie weren't going to do it, so it was up to Mark. So.
Well, to be honest, like it's been coming quite a while where I thought there's only been 2 podcasts I think I've missed since the very start of this. One of them being Almiron's first goal for Newcastle United. And another one where I think Perez grabbed a brace. I'm not sure. Probably Crystal Palace again, according to me. But I was on holiday in Tenerife, and that was another one which I missed. So I just want to see how he's did. And to be fair, Mark's done really well, apart from his little introduction last week where he's and we're live, like Martin Tyler, which made us feel sick to my stomach.
And we're live. It was like a really posh version of it.
True, isn't it? True.
It is true, but you did a good job, mate. So thank you very much for filling in my absence.
Well, it's nice to have you back. It's just a shame that it's under the circumstances that it is, because what people don't know is that Chris did have a deal with another podcast where he actually left us to go of the promise of a non-paid position, and he was going to be offered training on social media posting and videos to camera over WhatsApp, but unfortunately things just didn't work out. So he came crawling back, cap in hand, which he's now put on his head tonight, and we've let him back on.
So yeah, I got recruited by another YouTube channel. Like you said, me offering us the world, and it just didn't happen, mate. So I've came crawling back, tail between me legs. I'm back where I belong. Gallagher Shots YouTube channel, best Newcastle YouTube channel going. Let's be honest with you.
Is that true? What he's just said there? He's just taking the piss.
Are you winding us up?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Oh. How could I leave my own YouTube channel?
I just wanted to see Adam's face. Adam was like, "Oh God."
But yeah, like I haven't had any training. I haven't had any WhatsApp training. I haven't had any professional tweets going out there.
That's the new one. Not very professional. Not very professional.
It's just us lads. And Bestie, you're very quiet, but aren't you? I can't even say
you. I'm just enjoying the kind of listening to it's like listening to the old podcasts, just listening to you three kind of bounce off each other.
Don't know what it is, though, mate. Like my little setup here, I can't see it, so it's even worse.
It's mate, like, as I say, you're missing out. I could do with this shave. My hair's a bit too long. And the shirt I'm wearing's a bit too tight for it, so just the usual, really.
You had to rub it in with a hair, didn't you? Huh?
Is it a Newcastle shirt you're wearing, mate? Let's see if I can guess.
Aye.
Is it black and white?
No.
Oh, shit.
The shoulder. We'll give you a clue. The shoulders are.
The shoulders are black and white.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a Adidas strip then, basically.
It's blue and black, Chris. Blue and black.
All right, Bestie, are you wearing a blue and black away strip?
I don't know how you managed to deduce that from the.
But right, lads. Before we start talking about football, what I do want to talk about is beers. So, beers, not beers. Beers. So I just think we should start with favourite lagers this week, because the football hasn't been the greatest. It's been absolutely dreadful. So if you were, so it's a nice summer's day like it's been today in sunny South Shields here, and if you could have one beer of choice, which beer are you going for? So start with you, Mark.
Oh, on a nice sunny hot day sitting out in the sun, it's got to be a nice ice cold bottle of Desperados.
Digger.
I have a feeling I'm going to get wrong for this decision.
He's going to say something.
For Foster's.
He's going for Foster's, isn't he?
No, absolutely not. No, I would definitely go for Coors Light. It would be the first thing I would do. Yeah, I would. Yeah, Desperados is a girl's drink, but I would definitely go to the bar and say,
It's ladies' night.
I'll have a pint of Coors. I would. I just would straight away.
Bessie's gonna probably go for some proper ale, yeah, like Hobgoblin or something like. But Bessie, what you going for, mate?
I kind of like let's just put the boot in on someone after having chose Coors Light.
I'll continue to keep putting the boot in. I like Desperados. Don't get us wrong. I like it. I'm just saying, if I was out, I wouldn't go to the bar and say a bottle of Desperado. First of all, it's a half, right? So you would never go to the bar and ask for a half.
Sometimes
why I said
I
a
prefer bottle. Sometimes I prefer bottle in the summer, like.
Bottle
but a
in
bottle-
a nice sunny day.
Yeah, but a bottle's a half, though, isn't it?
Well, not if you get 2 for a £5.
Get 2.
Then you get more than a pint, 660 mils.
So, Bestie, what are you going for, mate?
What am I going for? I quite like the Camden Hells. I do enjoy that. Like doing the Nicholson in Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
I had a couple of bottles over the weekend, and it was lovely, just lovely. It varies, honestly. There's times where I think I sick of myself. I get the Morrison, a well-known local supermarket that begins with M.
Morrison's, mate. I think you just said it.
Other supermarkets are available.
They do like 3 of the 660 bottles for a £5. So I'll drink like 30 bottles of Heineken in 10 weeks, and I think, fucking hell, I hate Heineken. So it changes all the time. Because I sick of myself, but at the minute, I think it's Camden Hells. And during lockdown, everyone seemed to be drinking San Miguel for some reason.
I love San Miguel.
Oh, it's lush. Like, I had a couple of bottles of that this weekend as well, but like, whenever you see a photo of Jess on Instagram, it's San Miguel, or it's like, for some reason, they just always sent me San Miguel in our house. I was like, what's going on?
Controversial opinion, but I think San Miguel is the worst Spanish lager.
You winding me up, mate.
No.
So, right,
that would be my last choice.
So my choice on a summer's day is either Estrella.
No,
Big fella
better than a San
Estrella.
Miguel.
Also like a Brahma, which I think maybe Jamaican.
Brazilian
Brahma.
Is it Brazilian? Right. So red stripe always red. I've made a list here. I've made a list. Red stripe. Or has anyone had a Cruz Campo before?
Oh yes. See, another Spanish beer that's far higher up the list than the San Miguel.
It's pretty light, so Cruz Campo was light.
Estrella, Dorada.
It's nice.
Mau's nice.
Mau's nice.
Like
San Miguel's
I had a
bottom of the list.
pint of that the other week. I don't know where I was. It was awful.
You were in the Old George, mate.
Oh, that's right. It was awful, right? It wasn't nice.
Old George was only one on draft, but I'm a massive fan of Estrella, like, and I love Estrella.
Because I like Hop House. That's what I wanted to go in for, was Hop House, but they didn't have any. So
I can see the comments, Mark. I know I've asked you to keep an eye on the comments, but I can see them on the telly there. And someone said, "What were you drinking this afternoon?" So somebody drove past us this afternoon, so I was outside the pub. And I was
Michael Jackson.
I was drinking the San Miguel.
So, San Miguel's all right. Like I don't know. It's all right. You know what I mean? It's all right.
So Marty reckons a Mau. Daryl's saying an Estrella as well. So see, a lot of agreement that San Miguel's bottom of the Spanish lager list.
Estrella's top for me.
I think Mark likes that Galahad, didn't you?
Oh, I love a Galahad.
No better than Galahad.
Look what I'm drinking. Can it knock a Galahad?
I've been drinking this thing, man, from Aldi.
Aldi,
the French one.
That's their Brassari or something, little stubby. You get about
Brassari.
47. You get 47 for a £5.
I love a bottle of Brassari.
Right, lads.
Does he play centre midfield? Fucking need him.
Let's get into it, right? So, I know we don't really want to speak to this, but we'll touch on it a little bit. Before we go on to the match, I just want to say everyone's probably seen it below. Once again, this season, the podcast is sponsored by Geordie Gifts. They've obviously got a website there, geordiegifts.co.uk, but they're also based in Newcastle upon Tyne. So if you're knocking around, whack your face mask on, get a Granger Market and visit the store. So massive thanks to them for once again showing their appreciation for what we do, jumping on board, sponsoring the podcast, helping us advance what we do. So yeah, thanks again. The match itself, how bad was that?
Well, before we jump into that, just looking at the pre-match stuff, what was your thoughts on the unchanged side? Because I certainly wasn't expecting that.
So the unchanged side, I think me and Decker touched on this on the reaction, which we did. And I think Decker also put it in the WhatsApp group. And it's something which Rafa never really did. Rafa, I know we're like, 10 minutes in, I'm speaking about Rafa again, but it just shows you the difference in managers here. Rafa would always be pretty harsh with his selection. So if it meant dropping a player, despite them having a fantastic performance last week, going into a game, he would do his research and his homework. And Decker, I'm pretty sure it was Decker that put in the WhatsApp group. He summed it up perfectly and said it's very similar to Sunday League football, where basically it's last week, lads, use 11-1, carry on to the next game. And I'll let you carry on your Decker, but it's something which you can't do in the Premier League.
No, sadly, no. You've said what I said, which I feel is right. I mean, surely you would think, within a team, you would see what the opposition is and where the opposition can hurt you, or obviously where you can hurt them. Hence why, let's go back to West Ham for a second. That the formation in what were played was right for West Ham. I think he even said that after the game, that this formation was just for West Ham. Like we picked a team that could beat that team, and hey, fair enough. That's what you do. But it's just so amateurish, isn't it? It's like I heard him say in his interview that it would be unfair if I didn't start the same team, or unfair I didn't start Carroll. You've got to be more ruthless than that, I'm afraid, as a manager at this level. You know what I mean? So it is. I put it on Twitter saying I think it'll be the same team, and I think people thought that meant I wanted it to be the same team. That was not the case. I just felt I knew what Steve Bruce would do, and it would be what you've just said there, Chris, is all the best lads. He did well last week. Go and do it again.
Yeah. And Bestie, moving over you, mate, I think it's a case where as a manager, you can't be mates with your players. You can't be mates with your playing squad. Of course, you can be a man of management and put your arm around the shoulder when needs be. But once again, I'll mention his name, but Rafa was ruthless. I'm pretty sure, I might be you that mentioned this again, Decker, that Murphy had one of the best games of his career for Newcastle United. And the next game he was dropped. And that's something which Rafa did. So Bestie, is the case where tactically, not necessarily we didn't do homework, but Bruce showed far too much confidence in the players that were there the week before?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's something that I'm going to try and avoid using comparisons to players as much as I can, but it's just so easy to it's such a comparison to make, isn't it? Like, but Bruce said that since he came in, I think it's kind of been implied that he's a players manager. That the lads go and have a good time at training and they have a good laugh and all that. Like he's kind of one of the lads. I'm sure he can kind of strip wallpaper out of his shouting as well. Like, you know what I mean? I'm sure Steve Bruce isn't exactly he's not a kind of shrinking violet out like that, but he's I think it was, I don't know if you would call it naive. I don't know if you would call it just kind of inept or what, but it's Brighton, whenever, and it was mentioned, I think in the away set that Andy did last week, like the way Brighton play, you're not going to be able to play a long ball up to Andy Carroll when they've got like, they've got the back Lewis Dunk, that left back who's like 8 foot tall, who kicked Isaac Hayden in the ribs mid-air. At one point, like you just can't play a long ball like that. And Decker made the point on the kind of immediately after the game yesterday, saying that Wilson was isolated as a result. And even Wilson and Carroll themselves, kind of, even though it was two up top, you didn't see them kind of playing as a unit, as a team, almost like. And yeah, I think Bruce is. I think he dropped a bollock basically on that one. Like, totally. Yeah, it was appalling. Like the second half was a little bit better, but that first half, they just didn't look. It was like the Pardew games when we're already 5-6-0 down and they're just chasing shadows. There's no shape.
So you mentioned there, Bestie, you mentioned the waste here, and every time we do one of these, I just want to give credit to the waste here and the work that Andy puts in. And the Away never gets the views that it deserves, because the Away is probably some of the best content that we put out on this channel. It's absolutely fantastic. And Mark, I'm pretty sure you had this discussion in the WhatsApp group as well, but the Away which Andy did with the Brighton fan, Scott, for We Are Brighton, basically pinpointed the dangers which we were going to see, especially from the right back. We saw it against Chelsea, the team which he was signed from for Brighton. We saw it, and we pinpointed this on this channel. We knew where the threat was going to be. So why is that not being sorted? through our coaching staff.
The silly thing is Bruce even identified himself, because he even made reference to it in his pre-match conference that that's where a lot of their chances and all of their play was coming from. And again, in the away side, that was where a lot of the talk was about, was that is where all of their threat is going to come from, down that right-hand side.
Mate, there was a good 10-minute conversation about that one player.
Yeah.
Good 10 minutes.
But I don't know, it is a little bit like you say, where it's just Bruce has looked at it and went, well, you don't change your winning team. And it's all well and good saying that if that winning team is set up to be able to go on and then give the opposition that you're about to be playing a game. Whereas it was obvious from the fact of naming the formation that we were, knowing how Brighton played, that we were going to be completely mismatched, because you can't go and play a 4-4-2 against a team that plays basically 3-4-3 for the majority of the time. And we're seeing it from the very, very start. If you're going to play 4 in the middle like we did, you've got to make sure that your 2 wide players are wide, so that it picks up their 2 wide players, and we just didn't do that. The centre 4 was just so narrow, and even our back 4 was dead narrow as well. So that just gave their 2 fullbacks the acres and acres of space, which is where all of the problems came from. And it just went from bad to worst in the first 7 or 8 minutes.
Well, the first few minutes, it's a player which all of us probably thinks the best player which we've got in our squad, and moving you to, because I know how much you admire the kid. But seeing Maximum here, his head went the second he gave that penalty away. He wasn't interested. As soon as he realized he had messed up, the game had gone, hadn't it? For him personally.
Yeah, I think touching on the formation in regards, as I spoke to you yesterday about this, and you've identified who the problem is, their threat on that side of the field. Has he played sane, thinking we're going to pin this guy back? So obviously, see, I wouldn't. Me personally, looking on a negative side, would be right. I'd probably play Miggy there because of the work rate, or even perhaps Fraser if he was fit, just for the sheer speed and being able to cover.
Which we saw second half, before jumping ahead, we saw that second half. Miggy did tolerate him the first few seconds. He caught him and took the ball off him, but carry on, mate.
I don't know if he's kind of thought, well, let's play Saint and try and keep that lad from coming forward, because he'll be so shit scared of coming forward because he's got Saint to deal with. I don't know if that's maybe some of the thinking, I'm not sure. But I watched the goal again the day, the first one, the penalty, right? And obviously, of course, Saint's, massively to blame. Lets him come inside instead of showing him down the line. Also, Lewis, I don't know if you've seen it again, but Lewis steps inside rather than coming to support Saint, which then gives him that gap. So it was just terrible from the off. But the point you were making was about saying, absolutely, when he gave that penalty away, he just seemed to, I don't know if it was his, one for a better word, like his mojo was just gone, right? Like he was just, he was gone. Like he just...
You saw his head physically drop, didn't it?
It really did. And it's so annoying to see and upsetting, because what worries is what happens if in certain games he gets clattered early, or people do that to him? Will his head just go? I mean, I don't want to knock him too much. It's one half of football, right? And we've seen so many good games from him for such a long period of time. But it was still disappointing to see what happened. Do you know what I mean?
I think it was the fact that his body language, we could see this best, his body language had completely gone. You could see his shoulders had dropped. Every time he picked that ball up, he lost it. Every time after that. He was on the pitch for a good 30 minutes after that. And he never looked like really progressing or really picking his shoulders up and his head up and continuing what we've seen from him in the past since the day he signed. He looked like a completely different player.
Just looked like he didn't fancy it to me. I mean, I've seen people say online that he got subbed because he didn't want to play. I'm not too sure how true that is. But as soon as Lamptey, the fullback, kind of got the measure of him, and because St. Maximin, for all he's tricky, he's quite strong as well. He's a big, heavy set lad. And Lamptey he had him on toast early on, and you could see him. It's almost as if he says, I kind of it's not for me today. It's not happening. And Lewis, I think Lewis did struggle. I kind of mentioned earlier. I think he was a bit exposed, but you're going to get these games. The young lads, he didn't have a great time with it. But yeah, St. Maximin just didn't. It wasn't his day, shall we say? I'll be diplomatic. It just wasn't his day.
And I think we can say that against a lot of players on the field. On our instant reaction, which me and Dick had done, we're also pinpointed at Shelby on this one. Shelby, a player who creates a lot of our chances, but Mark, he was bad, really bad.
I think it's one of the worst performances we've seen from him, and it's that revert to type that we see quite often from him when things aren't going his way, where he just starts dropping deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and the amount of times that he was just basically playing in the middle of that back four or coming right onto Mankio's toes to pick up the ball from him and trying to make something from there. It just, I think Bestie mentioned it just before there. We'd certainly picked up a lot more at the start of the second half once we made some further changes. But the big difference for me from that was we actually started putting pressure on Brighton and pushing up the pitch and closing them down and not allowing them play. Whereas we just didn't do that at all in the first half, which just invited their lines onto us to push back, which meant then Hayden and Shelby were just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And at times we were playing with essentially six at the back, albeit with the two slightly in front. But and again, something Bestie just said there about Lewis. He didn't have a great game, but what I think why he struggled was because of the formation that they had with the three up front. Basically their right side of the three was positioning himself between Fernandez and Lewis, and it was a bit of a toss-up between which one was going to pick them up, and Lewis was generally the one that was coming inside to do it because Fernandez wasn't stepping up to do it, because they kind of just positioned themselves between our midfield two and were back four, and just did that awkward position of sitting in that gap, meaning that either your defense can't come forward because your midfield's there, and your midfield can't drop any further back because they're already in defence. And it was just a bad day at the office from the very set out and get go.
Well, speaking of Lewis, there obviously he had a great game, his debut for Newcastle against West Ham, Digger. But like we mentioned before on the way here, we knew that game was going to be won on that side of the pitch. Obviously, Brighton wanted the game a lot more than what we did, and I think after Brighton's second goal, which was a great finish, I can't take anything away from them. Absolutely fantastic finish. But after we conceded that goal, Lewis looks up at Saint and he's gone, "Where are you?" Like, because Lewis is in the point where, like, do I go to that man? Do I leave that man? And like Mark just mentioned, Fernandez as well behind him. Lewis was in a position where when Saint isn't on his game and when a player in front of him isn't on his game, Lewis has got a thankless task. He's never going to look like the good person in this one.
Marty's made an interesting point in the comments there. He's saying, could the head drop and be the flaw in Saint's character that stops him going on to be a £50 million player? We've seen these kind of things with like Ginola and Ribera in the past with French wingers, haven't we?
Well, you've just said, and this is what I was about to say. You've obviously asked us there about, Lewis is almost getting hung out to dry. You wouldn't see Ginola tracking back defending either. Like, sometimes these players, that's just not what they do. Ben Arthur wouldn't do it. Ginola wouldn't do it. Robert wouldn't track back. Saint won't do it because it's not who he is. If we're wanting people to dig in and track back, you have to play Miggy there, I'm afraid. Or you're just going to or change the tactic or change the formation. Mark made a brilliant point because he's bang on, by the way, with their front three and their right-hand side player was causing Lewis and Fernandez all sorts of trouble. Lewis didn't know whether to go towards him, which then left Saint on his own, which, as we've just discussed, he's not going to track back on Mark. The whole setup and the whole tactical approach was wrong, and that's what's cost us massively. And to the point of we've said this before about playing Carroll. Sometimes when you play Carroll, it inevitably means the team's going to play along, right? And Adam said in the group yesterday, every single time we have a target man, we don't change how we play football. We'll just go along, right? Yeah. And you mentioned Shelby and Hayden were pissing me off so much because they were coming so deep to take it off with defenders.
Ridiculous, man.
Right? When them turned, there was no one to aim at except Carroll, because the defenders could have carried it out them 5 or 10 yards and started to play, but no. Shelby's running all the way back, takes it off their toes, and is just lumping it 50 yards, and then we'll lose.
Especially when you're playing a formation where you don't really have any wide men at this point.
Yeah, well, I'm not trying to knock. I don't want to knock everyone here. I know I appreciate Hendrick played right wing for Burnley. I appreciate he's doing well against Saturday. I just do not see him as a right winger.
He's not.
He said
he's not
himself
right.
he doesn't want to play there. He said
Yeah.
himself when he joined us, he wanted to be playing in the middle of the park, and that's where he should be, really.
Yeah, well, he's not a right winger. He's not a right-sided midfielder for me. And
I think right
it's
now,
like putting Shelby right winger. I don't know. It
I
doesn't
think
work
right
for me,
now,
like.
as a football team, and I think we'll probably all be in agreement here, we are flooded. We are inundated with centre midfielders, and we are really struggling for wingers now. Centre midfield is a position where, like, let's look at it. You've got Shelby, Hayden, Hendrick, both Longstaffs. You've got 5 players that can play in centre midfield there. How many wingers have we got that can physically do a job? 2, 3? There's not many.
I don't know, but when you look at the squad, we've got an imbalance of wingers because, albeit yes, they're not getting into the team or not potentially in the squad, but you've got Fraser, you've got Saint, you've got Miggy that plays out there, you've got Richie, you've got Murphy, you've got Atsu. We've got millions of wingers.
Well,
But
I think you're looking at 2 of those that probably aren't going to get a squad number.
Yeah, that's true. My issue with the whole team, apart from fucking God knows, there's too much. But I still honestly think the centre midfield is not good enough. The centre midfield pairing, it's just not good enough. There's not enough legs in there. Like yesterday, like Shelby's literally almost in slow motion half the time. And I honestly felt Hayden was the same. And if you continue to have them two as your centre midfield pairing, we're never, ever, ever going to be able to progress. Because you could play Miggy one side, Saint the other, Fraser. All these names to me are attractive and they've got something about them. But in centre midfield, there's nothing there.
I know, like you mentioned there, like Miggy being a winger. I much prefer Miggy in the number 10 role. Much prefer him.
Without doubt, yeah, of course.
In that thing, it's one of the things where when I think of a winger, I think I'll move you, Bessie. Though I think of the likes of Fraser, and he's that sort of winger which I'm hoping for. Same as what I had Townsend a few seasons ago. That's the winger which I want. Someone that's going to run to the byline, get the ball in the box. Richie, is Richie really a winger these days? Like, he's not the sort of player that I want, like, pushing forward in my team. He's the sort of player that's. I think he was used as a wing back quite a bit under Rafa, wasn't he? And that's probably his position for me, Bestie. I'm not sure what you feel on that one.
I agree with that. Like, I mean, Richie he's. I think we've said it a fairly recent podcast. Like, Richie's done a fantastic job for Newcastle. He obviously the amount of goals he made in the Championship season, you wouldn't say single-handedly got up, but without him, we don't win the league for me. Mm-hmm. Along with a few others, I hasten to add. Like, but Richie, yeah, I'm with you there, Chris. I think Almiron, whilst he can be used on the wing, we've tried that and seen that it doesn't really work as well as it does when he's inside. But going to kind of Declan's point here about having Shelby and Hayden in the middle, I agree that if you've just got Shelby and Hayden in the middle, both sitting deep, then you don't really get a great deal. If you take Andy Carroll out of that team yesterday and have someone else in the middle, someone like Almiron who can do the work from the halfway line to the edge of their box, you've got a completely different team. You've got a better team for me. Or not just that's not how to go with Carroll. I think if you take Wilson out of the team for Almiron, because you've got a better balance, you've got more control in the middle of the park. And Almiron, we've seen every game he's come on, he's improved this season so far. That West Ham game,
I would probably say Almiron's been our best player this season, and he hasn't started a game yet.
Yeah, I agree with that completely, man. I think he's like all 3 games he's come on and he's changed them. Although, did he start against Blackburn or did he come on? He came on, didn't he?
Started against Blackburn.
He started Blackburn.
Oh, did he start off? Sorry, man. I thought he came on.
But he was still the best player on the pitch, like for us anyway.
He put that ball through for Fraser's goal, didn't he? And I think
great ball.
I don't think this team's here to stay. I mean, for all we've had a bit of a pop at Bruce earlier on, I'm certainly saying that he's it's been a bit naive, maybe a bit kind of ineptitude that's led to him this team. I think when Fraser's match fit, let's not forget he's barely played this year. I think when Fraser's up to speed, he'll be in the team straight away. It'd be expensive. Maybe they put Hendrick inside. Did they bring Carroll out and play Almiron behind? They've got options there. Like it just wasn't
Yeah,
the team that he picked on yesterday just wasn't the right team at all.
I think you've summed up that quite well, mate. Carroll, he started the first 2 Premier League games. That's not going to be a continuous thing for Newcastle United. Carroll starting games. So that formation isn't going to stay there, and that squad and starting 11 isn't going to last very long. So do you think when Carroll drops out, that's when you probably will see a change in formation and move to you, Mark? Is that when you see the change in the formation and probably Miggy starting the games?
It has to be. I mean, I can't understand why we went with the 4-4-2. Nobody plays that. I can understand why we played it against West Ham, but you don't play it against a team like Brighton that have just got absolute, bean poles at the back in all 4 positions there. So if we'd gone back and just played the 4-2-3-1 that we normally do, we would have still had that little bit of ability to change with shape to be able to go, because what did was not being able to match them in the positions that they were playing. So if we could have then just dropped one of those back into midfield, made a midfield 3 with Hendrick as best he's just said there, and then allow that just to come in, so that we've then got 2 out wide with Saint and probably Miggy coming in for Carroll out on the right, or even Fraser, depending on how fit he is. It just would have made that whole team much more different, get us more on the front foot, and there's no way that game would have went the way that it did. So obviously we've got a game on Wednesday as well. We're not even going to see the team that we're potentially talking about now, because he'll do the same kind of thing and rest a lot of those players and bring in the new ones. But the next league game, we've got to go back to what we know best. Look at the team that we're playing. How do they play? How can we set us up? Because there's not many teams out there that we'll face where they're going to worry about how we're set up. We've got to kind of look at how they're set up and how they play and counteract that, but for our benefit.
Yeah, I want to move you over. I don't want to focus massively too much on the game, because it as a Newcastle point of view, we didn't really have much to talk about from us. It was all negatives, really. But Decker, me and you spoke about this, and a lot of the criticism that Joe Linton's had, and I would say probably unfairly, is because he'd been up top by himself and had a thankless task of doing that. And we mentioned this on our reaction, that it was the same at the weekend. So Wilson's up top, and if you're up in the ball to him, nothing's going to happen. And we said that it doesn't matter which striker you got up top. If you're playing that sort of football and that sort of formation, it's never going to end well. And it just proved that on Sunday.
Well, it did. I will actually say I thought he looked really good. Like, I mean, I know nothing really happened. I know he missed a hell of an opportunity, that header in the second half. I mean,
that changes everything if he scores that.
You would think it's bread and butter for him, but he's very quick, he's intelligent, he runs, his touch is great. But there was a lot of times in the first half, and for all we played, absolutely shocking, by the way, but he'd collect the ball and, I don't know, someone would play him down the line. There was absolutely nobody up with him to support him.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And you could see him all running along, like looking in the box going, oh, there's just nobody there. That has to change. And I said this before we even signed him. I said before we signed him, we can sign him and everyone's going to be dead happy. But if we don't change the way we play, it doesn't matter, because he's going to be starved of any kind of service. And it also, sorry to touch you mentioned Fraser coming in. My God, get him on set pieces, please. Because what in the hell was Shelby doing with them set pieces yesterday? We're playing shit as it is, right? But what I will say is, when we get a set piece, we've got a few big lads, right? We've got Carroll on there, you've got Lascelles, Fernandez. Every single set piece floated to the goalkeeper.
It was frustrating.
We'll have to be better than that.
I think that goalkeeper touched the ball more time than what any of our players did, just solely by picking the chances of what Shelby hid in the box, because it was horrendous.
Horrific, man. Horrific. And it's just, Christ almighty. We couldn't keep hold of the ball anyway. And I also want to touch on it. Last year when we played Brighton, it was the same script, right? That 75% of the ball, we got absolutely battered, but we drew 0-0 and we got away with it. This time was the same. It was the same performance. It was shit.
So, mate, I'm going to go back to this, but once again on the away here, the Brighton fan, I'm not sure how true this stat is, but the Brighton fan said the same weekend we played Brighton, that Man City played, I think he said Watford, and they won 6-0 or something ridiculous like that. Mm-hmm. Brighton had more possession against us than what Man City had against Watford, and they won 6-0. That just shows you how bad we are as a football team.
Yeah. And what worries us here, and listen, I understand, right? I'm one of these, and I get wrong for it all the time on Twitter, where we win a game of football, and I'm like, hey, well done, guys. Gaffer got it spot on, blah blah blah. When we lose, the world's caved in. But what I have to say is you go back to last season here against Brighton, right? Well, I think that was maybe Bruce's second or third game in charge. Might have been somewhere around there anyway.
It was early, wasn't it?
But when you look at what we were yesterday, tell us what's changed.
Nothing.
Fuck all, right?
The thing that's changed is Brighton have got a goal scoring presence now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't help when you give, it doesn't help when you're giving penalties away in the first minute, though, does it? What I mean in regards to how we are set up as a team and how we attempt to try and play the game, the philosophy has not changed whatsoever. We're looking absolute shambles at the back yesterday. There could have been 5 or 6.
There was a point, there was the second time they hit the post when their lads hit it from about 20, 25 yards out.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's carried the ball more or less from halfway, at least, let's say, 15, 20 yards he's carried it. And he's just been given the freedom. There's no one closed him down. The defence has stayed kind of, as you'd kind of expect to do, kept that shape. But for all, you've got Shelby and Hayden who are playing deep, who aren't getting too far forward, who are kind of just quite immobile, aren't they, for the most part. Yeah. It's just nothing. He's got no one to take on. He's got no one putting pressure on him. So he's got all the time in the world to pick that shot out and hit the post. I think it was 2-0 at the time. And that's when you get alarm bells for me. It reminded us of a goal that Ross Barkley scored years ago for Everton, where he picked it up in his own half in the corner. Leeds had scored in the Gallagher. Yeah. There wasn't one challenge on him. It was just like that kind of thing where you think, well, lads, he's on trying.
And exactly, and that's a good point, because I understand, right, that we were set up incorrectly. I get that. But also, you could see some of the players, they weren't giving it, were they? They weren't pressing, they weren't putting the foot in, they weren't winning their own individual battles with everywhere over the pitch. And that's what concerned us as much as the tactical approach. It annoyed us and upset us that, like, people were just letting them run past them. You know what I mean? It's just, it's worrying. It was worrying.
I think Isaac Hayden said a little bit along the lines of that in his in the interview that he's done today. Is that, I guess, he doesn't think that there was enough effort being shown by all of the players on the pitch. Now, I've got to say, I've got to put him in that camp as well, because he didn't have the greatest of games, but at least he's calling it out. You need to see a reaction. But how many times have I said those words, that you need to see a reaction in your next game from the team?
Well, I mean, I remember, I've said this before, we Saturday got beat 4-0 or 5-0 or whatever it was against Leicester, and we beat Man United the following week. So the players have come back, and they have shown that they can come back from a defeat. But what worries me here is I have absolutely zero confidence that we won't see this type of game again. Like, I honestly, I wish I could sit here and go, "It's just one of them. We'll not see that again." But
do you mean as if we won't learn from our mistakes?
No, I don't think we will. I really don't.
Yeah.
Fair enough, he might play a different formation. And I don't want to go back again here, but look at the Blackburn game, right? I appreciate there was 10 changes, right? But you all watched that game. That was horrific, right?
Yeah.
Horrendous. And it was almost the same performance 5 or 6 days later with a brand new team. 10 changes or whatever. Horrific. Both of them performances were horrendous. And my worry is we'll see this again. What might be really good next week, or might hammer Morecambe, I don't know. But in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be sitting around going, actually, that was the same as the Brighton game. Shite, haven't got a clue. That's how I feel.
It's what we've said since basically the majority of last season, haven't we? And after lockdown, where we got the few results to push one and make sure we were safe, we just almost down tools and went on with summer holidays.
I think it flattered with me. I think the first few games of lockdown flattered us as a football team to what we were. I think we got, obviously, towards the end of the season, the last handful of games, we looked like the team that we all expected. But Bessie, you just agreed there. But after lockdown, we looked half decent. But I think we were fooled.
I think, just like I said, even before lockdown, we had the game at West Brom, the cup match, in Southampton away, I think was the last game, and they were both pretty decent games. We came back and beat Sheffield United. There was a 4-1 at
Bournemouth.
Yeah.
And looking at those games, like in isolation, you'd say, like, this isn't a bad team, this. But then you think of kind of, well, you've got yesterday, you've got Blackburn, other games from the end of last season, which, to be honest with you, I've mainly wiped from my memory.
That's not a bad
Man
thing.
City in the cup was one, definitely, but the games where they just didn't. They were
Aston Villa away. Aston Villa away last season.
Villa away, yeah.
Horrendous.
Live
Me
on
and
Sky.
Mark watched that one, so I think it was
Yeah.
only me and Mark doing the podcast on that one because we couldn't use
Yeah, we did
Ashley
live reaction,
and-
didn't we?
doing a live reaction, and that was probably one of the worst games we ever watched.
Yeah. We
What a
look
fan.
clueless. We'll just look clueless on. And this is the
Grealish tore
problem.
when you arsehole.
He did. But again, I know we're going back to last season, yeah, but we're on about tactical awareness here. You know what player's going to hurt you, right? So you set up to try and, nullify that threat. Grealish had a free roll, literally was just taking the piss. And then going back to as recent as yesterday, you all know what player's going to hurt you. No, it doesn't matter, lads. Crack on.
Yeah.
And the daft thing
as-
is Bruce said it himself.
I'm going to say, Mark, just as we're all talking here, because I don't want to talk about the match too much here.
Yeah.
But just as we're all talking here, if anyone wants to send a question in, Mark will monitor the questions and the comments getting sent in. So if anyone wants to ask us a question, get them sent in now, and then we'll go ahead and answer those for you. But Mark, what are you going to say, mate?
I can't even remember now.
Probably right. It's probably a good thing, mate. To be
See,
fair.
Marty's just said Cardiff away was one of the worst ever it was, wasn't it? Jesus Lord.
You always mention that game, don't you?
Well, I remember.
I'm sure Adam actually put that in the
Yeah.
I think
chat
Adam was there. Adam, were you there?
He was, yeah, he was at that game.
I remember that because it was me. We were doing the NFL draft late on that day. We started drinking, watching it with my mates, and I just could not. I was watching it with a Borough fan as well, and the Borough fan went, listen, we're terrible, right? But this is bad, isn't it? And I was like, oh, this is the worst I've ever witnessed. Like, but
I've got to say
life
from
of a
the
Newcastle fan.
comments, like Shelby is getting absolutely rinsed in the comments here around how he's holding we're back, slowing we're down, dropping deeper and deeper. So there's lots and lots of shouts to Hendrick to go in the middle.
I think it would be harsh, right? I think it'd be harsh to pinpoint everything on Shelby on this game because Hayden just didn't do as much either. At least Shelby was trying. Hayden didn't do fuck all.
The one thing I would say about Shelby yesterday, right? He played terrible, right? But what I will have to say, at least he tried to get on the ball and make something happen. All right, yeah, of course, it didn't happen. But I mean, I just found that yesterday there was a lot of players literally just went missing. Like, just didn't want the ball. Like, they just didn't want it.
It seemed like an end of a season game, didn't it?
I don't wish it was.
We often find that though, don't we? That we've never been a team that likes to have a lot of possession. We always seem to look more comfortable when the opposition have the ball, and we're quite happy to let them play it. But you've got to at least try and win the ball and make them. If you're going to be playing counter-attacking, you've got to try and make them make mistakes so that you can at least get the ball back and then hit them. Not just wait for their move to break down or to have a shot and then for the keeper to pick it up or something like that.
Did you know what
just said that word. We didn't have a single shot on target the whole game.
If you're watching that game as neutral, right, and you're looking at both teams, Brighton looked like Barcelona. Do you see how quick they were closing us down? Every single time we got the ball, there was 2-3 players chasing after that player and chasing after that ball. Yep. When they got the ball, we were literally stood off them just saying, do what you want. Literally do what you want with that ball. And that's where we struggled because we got pressurized. And our defenders, the pair of them, as much as I like both Lascelles and Fernandez, they're not comfortable on the ball. And they literally got the ball and they kick it as far up the pitch as they can possibly get it. And that's so frustrating as a football team. When you've got the likes of Brighton, I don't want to take anything away from Brighton. Brighton were fantastic, absolutely fantastic on Sunday. And we were dreadful. And I've always got this thing where I really want to hate Brighton. But I think the reason why I want to hate Brighton was because of Knockhart. And now Knockhart isn't there. I can't hate them anymore. And
hate Fulham instead.
Yeah, I've got to take my hat off and admire what they did as a football team because they looked great.
Well, look at their team as well. I certainly don't want to be disrespectful here, but I couldn't tell you their 11 players, right? I couldn't tell you now. I couldn't name their team for you. And
I can now.
Well, there's a lot of their players that, honest to God, here, I don't know if it's because I'm biased because I'm a Newcastle fan, but I'd look at us on paper and go, is that like man for man? I wouldn't exactly say we're going to get outplayed here, but that's what's happened twice when we've played them. Completely outplayed from start to finish. And it's concerning. It's fucking worrying.
It is. I mean, I don't want to be too kind of three cheers for the Mexicans off Mike Bassett, like, but that Lampley's he's superb. Him, like, he was like
great,
head and shoulders above. But it's a Maximin and Lewis on our left hand side. He basically effectively kind of got him 2 goals up to start with. He was brilliant.
Really, there was about 5 of our players like kicked him. Well, 5
Yeah,
players kicked
Shelby
him.
Well,
really gave
that
him
one that
Shelby.
Shelby got booked for, yeah, after he put some
So I
action on
think
his arse.
Shelby kicked. Oh shit! Hang on. Oh,
Oops,
I'm
yeah.
gone.
Hey, yeah, that was
I
picked
think
up
Shelby
in the.
kicked him. I think Lewis kicked him. I think Carroll kicked him. There was a handful of players
No.
kicked him, and this makes me really annoyed that our scouting network hasn't looked at him. The fact that he cost what 3-4 million for
Yeah.
Brighton, and we're desperate for a right back. I think I had this discussion tonight with one of the lads that we've probably got 2-3 average right backs in the team. For Brighton, I know it's only 2 games in the season, but he looks like the real deal. That kid for 4 million quid.
Unreal, absolutely unreal. You see the one when he burst through again, but Manquillo did tremendous to cover because it was going to be a goal. I know he was right back, but at times he was everywhere. Like
That was
certainly
the
in the
one where-
first half an hour.
But he had,
tackled
the,
one of
he,
our
had the,
players.
he had the space and the freedom to do it.
They broke, didn't I think Lewis
That's right.
kind of tried to head it back, but
Aye, and the lad didn't get over
in
the top.
end, Lewis did really well. Lewis closing down,
Yeah.
down, caught up with them as well. Like so, but that was
Manquillo did brilliantly there.
that was
But then
one. Like you
you
mentioned,
look at it. You look on the opposite side, Bestie, as well. When we were on the attack, and I think it was Wilson that was running forward, and this kid out of nowhere comes in and like just tackles him, wins the tackle cleanly. You look at the other side of the pitch, and we're just kicking him left, right, and centre.
yeah.
Sorry,
That was the point. It was during the first half yesterday. I tweeted like we're quite a dirty side. You know that thing off.
Oh fuck!
Mitchell and Webb. That are we the baddies? It was like that. Like look, watching Newcastle thinking, hang on, we are shite here. And all we're doing is spoiling. And we're just
That was
nothing
just like
about it.
West Ham last week, though, wasn't it? They were doing
it
the
was.
same to Saint Maximin. They were just because they couldn't live with him, they were kicking him. So we reverted to doing that as well.
Yeah.
We had everyone in the book
Even
by
the-
about half an hour. It felt like every
even
single
the,
player was booked.
Even the chance we had that Wilson header, it came about because they'd overplayed at the back, and it wasn't like a great move by Newcastle saying, "Oh, we're doing it, we're kind of breaking through them." It was something that was said in the away stay. Their lad said, "Oh, we're sometimes a little bit guilty of overplaying at the back and losing it," and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, because we pressed them finally in the second half.
Yeah,
Certainly the first 10 or 15 minutes, but the whole team moved up the field about 20 yards and started putting them under a bit of pressure. But the first half was just non-existent like that.
Yeah.
And and I've said this fucking 100 times, I'm sure. As soon as a team presses us, we're fucked. We'll just go back to the goalkeeper and kick it long. But for some reason, we will not press the opposition. We won't press them and put them under some sort of pressure. We just don't do it.
So, Mark, has there been any questions then? You've been to keep an eye on them, mate?
Yeah, so there's a couple of comments around transfers. So Scott Tomlinson says, do you think the fact that Ashley was in attendance was a good thing? You must see that and be worried that his 300 million could be at risk. So do you think he'll take action? And alongside that one, Mr. Jigsaw, can you see anyone else coming in before the window closes? So lots of thoughts around after seeing that performance yesterday that we still need to do a little bit of strengthening in the transfer window that's left.
I think personally, with Ashley being there, the only reason Ashley is there because fans aren't. That's why you're seeing him on the ground right now. I don't think it's got anything to do with targets or transfers or anything like that. He's there because he can be there without getting any stick from the fans. It's the only reason why he's there.
Well, apparently he'd made a promise to Bruce in the meeting that had in the summer that he would turn up and come to the games more and be more involved.
That's why.
I'm still surprised he's going to go. Like I thought he'd rather just be sitting having a pie or something at home or something. I don't see why he would want to go just because there's no fans there. I get what you're saying because he's not going to get called all game. But I am still surprised he makes the effort to come. Like you just stop now and watch it.
Everyone loves him now, doesn't they? Now he's big Mike's in the Premier League. Everyone's
fuck me.
But I don't know. What's your thoughts on like I'm not. Sounds daft because it's only been 2 games, but like I've seen a lot today saying that he should be sacked, we should get rid of him, blah 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 blah. Who would you get in?
So Bestie, I want to shift to Bestie on this one because I think out of the 4 of us, Bestie the one that's probably been the most harsh with Bruce from day one, and we're all in agreement. All 4 were in agreement here that none of us want Bruce to be manager, and we'll all agree on that one. We'll all think there's better out there. But I revert back to I think it was the Norwich review, which we did. And we all said on that day, Bruce needs to be sacked right now. Then obviously the season panned out. we got an average season out of it. Nothing special, nothing horrendous. It was an average season. But Bestie, do you think, seeing what Brighton have done with their manager, do you think that we should be learning and not appointing the likes of Bruce and looking at somebody else?
I mean, I think that's a lesson that should have been learned after Pardew, to be honest with you. He's been gone for 5, maybe 6 years now. I mean, it's only 2 games this season, but then I don't think you can look at those games in isolation. Like, you've got to have last season considered as well. I saw a point made on Twitter today. Might be by Mark Corby saying by Kenny Dalglish got sacked 2 games into the season because of what preceded it, you know. And I'll probably be the least enamored by Bruce. I would say out of the 4.
You've got some great words, you Bestie. Really good words.
This is the only reason why I'm back for Bestie's words.
But my kind of fear is that if Newcastle to lose the next 3 or 4 games and Ashley says, right, that's it, you're gone, I don't trust Ashley and Charnley to make a progressive decision. I think they'd go for someone like, well, not Allardyce because they fell out, didn't they? But like a Pulis type of character or Mark
perceived safe appointment.
Bestie, as you're talking there, the last 2-3 comments that came in are people just saying Eddie Howe.
I would say Howe would be a good appointment, I think. He's a weird one, Howe, because obviously he did a fantastic job at Bournemouth, albeit with a lot of money. He went to Burnley before Sean Dyche was there and lasted about 20 minutes.
Failed and went back. Yeah.
So, but there again, I mean, that's what, maybe 10 years ago now he did that. So I would, if we wrap this up tonight and Bruce has gone and Howe's in, I'm happy with that. Like,
well, that's why I asked the question, really, because that my answer is Eddie Howe. Like, I mean, you know, that someone's available, and I think that would be within our in our region of being able to attract. But you know, Bestie's right though. If it did happen, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Like, I was looking at the pictures. We've got Spurs. You've got fucking Chelsea. There's some hard games coming.
One's coming. Yeah.
So we might not win a game for a while yet. Does that make him press the panic button? I don't know. But but he's right. We'll probably go and get someone like Mark Hughes or something, like another person that's been through the mill. If we've employed someone that has the worst winning record in the Premier League history, if we've employed him, then
I think the whole thing with Eddie Howe is the fact that he's unemployed. We don't have to pay any sort of buyout or anything with him. So I think he's one of those English managers. So I think he may be a decent option. Shell's watching the stream at the minute as well, and she says yes because he knows half of our players as well. Yeah, so thanks for watching, Shell. Hope you're doing well.
He might have fell out of Fraser, I think.
I was going to say the only thing with that is, yes, he does know a lot of our players, but he's also fell out with them, sold them, got rid of them. So that's not necessarily a good thing. I think particularly Richie and Fraser, the two that spring to mind.
Oh, just silent now.
Yeah. No,
I thought everybody had a Bestie Wi-Fi moment there.
I wasn't sure if everyone's stream. I just stopped there. I didn't know what to do. Is there any more questions sent in, mate?
How
long have we been going for now?
10 o'clock.
10:03.
53 minutes, I think it is.
53, right. We'll go for another 7-10 minutes, then we'll call the night. So anyone that's got any questions to send in, get them sent across.
So Mark Cohen's asked, is it Bruce's lack of tactical knowledge that is causing the players' performances to drop?
Mark Owen?
Yeah, Mark Owen.
Is he?
There's got one coming up from Gary Barlow in a minute as well.
Yeah, fuck him.
Axe dodging bastard, he can fuck off.
Tory prick.
We've just turned into slagging. Take that off. Apart from Jason Orange. We like Jason Orange.
Not Jason Orange. Good
we like Jason Orange. Hi, Jason.
What about Howard?
Howard, he can fuck off as well. He's not Jason. You don't get this from any of that channel, do you? Take that. Appreciation.
You did. I couldn't even name them, so you were mentioning names there. I didn't have a clue you were talking about.
So Jason Orange. So Jason, was it Jason Orange's mum that owned the Alum House, Bestie?
Aye. I tried the Alum House for a few years. Aye, Jenny.
So he's
Jenny Orange.
Jason Orange. I know Gary Barlow, obviously.
Tory prick.
Yeah.
You would do, wouldn't it, Tory?
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Mark's question. Do we think do we think it's Bruce's lack of tactical knowledge that's causing the players' performance to drop?
Nah.
To be, yeah.
No, I don't think it is. I like. Do you know what it is though? I'd be really worried if Bruce didn't know his tactics. I'd be really worried if he didn't. And if he doesn't, then he needs to be sacked right now. Never mind
Well,
tomorrow. Now.
He obviously does because he said that he got it against West Ham. He changed to 4-4-2. That nobody in a right mind thought we were going to play 4-4-2. Like, I don't think he's not as bad as what everyone else thinks he is. He's not the person to take you forward. Of course, he's not. But he does mistakes like this where it's that old school mentality of like, oh, you did really well last week, lad. So it'll be unfair if I drop anyone. So crack on. That at the top level of football, you can't get away with it. And that's what's shit.
No, you've hit the nail on the head there, mate.
So we've got a couple of questions around the stadium. So Keith Roll and Jason English are both pointing at the fact that we've got an empty stadium at the moment, whether that's causing any problems. So Keith says, do you think teams finding it too easy to play at St James's without fans? We've only won one game out of 6 since Project Restart at St James's, whereas Jason said, is the empty stadium a factor? Bruce touched on it last week. I would say no, because even when the ground's full, it's not the most hostile of places for the away teams. It's more it's more about getting on our own team and own players' backs.
We can be our own worst enemy at times as fans, and I think he's pretty all agree with that one.
I've said that a lot, but I don't know. You know, I want to cast your mind back to when we made Pickford shit himself. If the fans weren't in that ground that game, that doesn't happen. So there is moments in that game.
He's not been the same since either.
Never. So we've crippled that guy's career, which is amazing. But you know, that's what we've done, right? So that's because we were in the ground doing what we do, you know. So I totally agree. We can be very negative. That. But on the flip side of that, though, there is certain times where we are pretty good when we get pissed off or we get behind the team or the ref is an arsehole or something like that, where it can change a game, and that there probably is something in it, as there is for every single team in the league, by the way. But you know.
It's a fair point, that, Decker, because there is moments where you have times in a game where a decision goes against you, and it gets everybody kind of on the same song sheet, everybody pulling in the right direction. You see it in games like obviously the Derby when they had them, if everybody's bang up for that. The big one last season was going to be the Man City in the Cup. Everybody was just ready to give that one pelters. So. But it's very few and far between that you have that level of just hate and everybody getting behind, of just wanting to really pull together. And we've seen it loads and loads with different stuff, particularly on Twitter with factions and people just not pulling in the same direction, wanting to do their own different bits and pieces.
Right, lads, we'll wrap this one up, right? I want to end it on a positive note, and this is something which I'm going to steal from Extra Time, which Emil and Jess have been doing forward. But one of Emil's questions this week were, if you could be sponsored by anything, and it was on the back of Kyle Watts being sponsored by Double Glazing. So if you were to choose who you could be sponsored by, who would you choose? So we'll start with you, Bestie.
Do we get perks with this? Like,
you get perks. Gills.
Took mine.
I was gonna say like just eat a big Zax, like, but like
exactly.
Big Zax.
My heart wouldn't take the air out if I did that. Like, so. I'm gonna say. I can't. Come back to us. I need more time.
Right. Okay. Does anyone have anyone at the top of the head? Mark, do you have one?
I think that the way that we are at this time, and
no, mate,
it's
you that's getting sponsored, not the
me.
club. It's you.
Oh, just
personally.
Me. I could do with being sponsored by some sort of comedy club, so something like that, just to cheer us up a little bit, because it's bloody depressing at the minute. So I'd like to be sponsored by some comedians just to cheer us up a bit.
All right, okay. I'm gonna up to be sponsored by like Regain or something, so I could look like Andros Townsend like by the end of the season. like
That's
a
a
full
good
head of
shout,
hair. So I'll be sponsored by them as each game progresses. You just see me hair grow more and more,
And bigger and bigger.
bigger and bigger. Aye,
Mine would be Just Eat.
just
That's it.
eat.
That's all I've got.
I'm going to go with Veet to go completely the opposite.
So I'm getting sponsored by Regain, and you're getting sponsored by Veet.
Stephen Smooth Best.
Have you got a heavy chest, have you, Bestie?
Slick
It's going white from the top down, so I might a pint of Guinness. It's like black from there down, but hang on.
So, Bestie, Scott Tomlinson reckons you should be sponsored by Mini Milk for obvious reasons.
That's a
What
good
is
shout.
it? I'm going to go to bed thinking about Bestie's Guinness tits tonight, and it's made us fucking. That's
Every
enough
meal,
for me.
got every meal,
Every meal. Guinness tits, absolutely tremendous.
Guinness baths.
There's some predictable answers in the chat. So Daryl wants to be sponsored by Greg's. Michelle, obviously, she wants a garlic bread special, so she wants to be sponsored by Gills.
Yeah, I would.
So Welsh Neil, he's got a cracking answer. He wants to be sponsored by Aston Martin. I can get behind that, like.
Yeah, if you're gonna get a car with it, like, didn't think of that.
Do you know what it is though? As the channel was sponsored by Geordie Gifts, so that's what we'll go with.
Bestie's popped off for a Mini Milk.
Yeah. Oh, he's gonna get his Guinness tits out for it.
Has he gone?
Oh,
he's back.
now.
He's back.
Oh, I can't even see him. That's a problem. I can't even see him. I was just about to end it. I can't even see him.
He just popped to the freezer for a Mini Milk.
I want to get a chicken kebab wrap. So someone tell us where I can go for me tea. However, someone
Big Zach's.
Yeah, but it's about 80 quid delivery. So tell us somewhere I can go where it's like,
Gills, mate. You can't go wrong with Gills, man.
Gills don't do chicken kebab, do they?
Oh, do they not?
They should. I'd have thought so. Like, guy.
Wait, I did chicken wraps.
They didn't used to when I was a lad.
If they do Donner meat and stuff,
when I was a fat lad.
No, they didn't. They didn't because I used to go in and help Jenny put the kebab on the spit, and they didn't eat chicken then.
Honestly,
Marty's just dropped a classic in the chat.
Honestly, though, Mark, this is a podcast in itself. Like a story about helping Jenny with putting the kebab on the spit. Like,
I did, yeah.
We're gonna have to do a full podcast about Decker working in a takeaway shop for 20 minutes.
We don't want any of Decker's takeaway stories.
You did.
We've heard quite enough of those over the
years. We'll wrap it up, right? We'll wrap it up.
Well, but before we do, Marty wants to be sponsored by Stana Stair Lifts.
Great. There's better than Metros, better than Nexus. But just to wrap it up, right? I know we're a few months off, but if you watch out, I'm pretty sure we'll have a very special podcast coming where Decker tells you a very special Christmas story for all our young listeners as well.
Yeah. That will not be happening, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Cheers, lads. And I'll see you next week.
Good night.
Thanks for watching, everybody.